thought I'd make a quick comparison video here. I'll try to be quick. I have never sent out rolls of film to independent labs to be developed before. I've always taken my film to Walgreens over the past few years, or back when I was a kid. Other photo places existed. But I thought I'd try and use the services of a couple film labs in the Midwest. I have 2 rolls that I sent out to be developed. One from Process One in Overland Park, Kansas, and another from Dwayne's Photo in Parsons, Kansas. Long and short of it is, I sent 1 roll each to each of those places, and I ordered 1 set of prints. I paid for the development, and I also asked for my scans on a CD. I think both places offer scans sent out via email, but I just like having them on a disc. And the great thing about these 2 places is they both offer development for 110 film, which not every film lab will. I had 2 rolls to work with, and I shot them over these 3 cameras here, these little Minolta pocket cameras. I thought they were kind of fun. The purpose of this was I'm going to get rid of a couple of these and keep one of them. And before sending these off to somebody, I wanted to make sure that they actually functioned. As I have not opened the photos yet, I guess we'll find out. These will be the first rolls of 110 film that I've ever gotten back. I did take another roll a year or so ago, but it got lost when I took it to Walmart. So trying something different this time. In case you're wondering how I was able to shoot 2 rolls over 3 cameras, as I understand it, and your 110 roll here is completely enclosed in this plastic, except for this window here where the film is exposed to light. So you can conceivably remove it from a camera in the middle of the roll and only expose 1 frame, as opposed to exposing the whole roll if you were to do it with something like 35mm film. So an interesting experiment, I guess, on that front. Anyway, one thing I'm really interested in with both of these, Dwayne's Photo and Process One, is that they should be sending back my negatives, which Walgreens doesn't do, and I don't think Walmart does, or any other chain store these days. So if they mess up your scans, your prints, which I feel like has been done in my experience a few times, there's nothing you can do about it in those cases. But this time, I'm going to get my negatives back. Hopefully. We'll take a look. I sent both of these out same day, same time, on a Monday. This got back to me from the time I sent it out in about 2 weeks and a couple days. Dwayne's Photo took about 4 weeks and 3 days to return. Now the difference is, I should check, this was about $10 cheaper. This was, I think, $20 with the $5 shipping. And this was, I think, $30, and I think the shipping was a little higher. So there's the comparison without opening them. One, you pay less, it takes a little longer, at least for these 2 orders. One, pay a little more, but you get it a little quicker. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick look at these, open them up, see what we got going on. Yep. I'm going to ship with a cardboard insert. Very nice. This is encased in a Ziploc bag. We've got our paper envelope. That is another envelope. And in here, yeah, we've got some photos. Excellent. Got my CD. Very cool. What else? And excellent. This is what I was looking for. The negatives. Itty bitty, tiny negatives. Fantastic. All right. So this roll of film that I sent to process 1 was shot on, I shot it between the 460TX and the 460T. I'm going to pause for a minute, take a look, review the photos for a minute, come back to you. So I started off this roll of film that I sent to process 1 in this camera here, 460TX, and I thought what I'd do is try and show one of the worst pictures from each camera and one of the best. For the 460TX, I think this one is undoubtedly the worst. It's a picture of my piano. It's all out of focus. And then there's this defect here. I don't know what caused that. That kind of defect appears to occur on the first 4 photos that I got back. So I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure it's a light issue, maybe light leaking or something. But this is the worst one we've got. And I'll show you a couple that are a little better. All right, so this is one that was pretty well in focus. It's one my brother took of me and my cousin. I'm gonna try and cover up faces of people who didn't ask to be in this video, but I'm pretty well in focus there. Again, we've got this defect on the picture, which is odd, but not all of the photos from that camera had the defect. Here's another one. And this one is perfectly fine, perfectly natural. So I find that interesting. But overall, without the defects, I think this is a success, or at least an opportunity to learn a little bit more about this camera. The second camera that housed that roll of film was the 460T. And I was actually really surprised with how well the photos turned out. It's hard to pick a bad one, but this is what I think may be the worst of the pictures from that camera, simply because of this defect. Now, this was the first picture I shot after switching to this camera, so I imagine this may be light leak left over from pulling it out of the first camera and putting it into the second. The quality among the rest of the photos, like I said, is pretty good overall, so I just picked one other photo to represent the best. And here we have the rig. It's a Model A Ford chassis with a pickup bed and a bench. One thing that I thought was interesting, I wasn't expecting, is the size aspect ratio. This is your typical, this is the index, typical 4:6, right? This appears to be 4:5, if you want to compare them side by side. I knew that 110 film was a unusual size, but for some reason I was expecting 4:6 prints back. It appears that they didn't crop it to make it 4:6, which is nice. I like it. All right, so on to Dwayne's photo here. Got our envelope. Here we have our disc. Got our prints back here. And joy of joys, negatives. Very cool. Very cool. All right. I'm going to take a look at what we've got here and give you the results in a minute. So the roll that I sent to Dwayne's photo was shot entirely on this, the 450E. And the quality of the prints just exceeded my expectations again. I had heard that because 110 is such a small film, there's not going to be much detail. And obviously these prints are a little bit smaller than 4x6s, but I was expecting perhaps worse than what I was getting. I thought I'd share here. I went through and tried to pick the worst ones. It's either this one, which was no fault of the developer. I just didn't really have anything in focus, trying to get these little birds on the picnic table here. And it may not come through on video, but just nothing's really in focus. Same kind of issue here. I took a selfie, and it may look fine on video. It's just kind of blurry in person. And those are my fault, not anything that happened in the developing process, which I'm pretty happy to report. One thing to make mention of, you may notice in this photo, we've got a blue line running across the bottom here. And as I understand it, that is common in 110 photography. It's where as you're advancing the film, part of it gets scraped, maybe along the cartridge itself, or maybe part of the camera, but part of that film gets scraped off and you end up with this blue here. And we got a little bit of a defect. This is the only one that this happened on, but we got a little bit of a defect right there. And a little blue squiggle right there. How much it must have scratched up against some. Otherwise, I'm pleased with the quality of this photograph and most others. So I thought I'd go on to probably the best ones. And that was between, in my opinion, this one, which is in portrait mode. I didn't have any photos in portrait mode from the other roll. Big old tree, my car in front. That, or my personal favorite, is this one here, because I caught the squirrel. He was scurrying around on the tree, and I wasn't sure if I had gotten him or not until today. I got my photos back, and he's in the shot. Perfect. Or she. I don't know. Another photo of interest. Caught this bird as it was flying back to its perch. I had actually waited quite a while for that bird to come back, but I knew that it was coming back, so I'm pretty happy about that. Thought I'd mention something about this film stock. This is one of the only 110 film stocks you can get in 2024. That's from Lomography. It's Tiger 200. When I took this picture, I was really quite intrigued with the different variations of color green. And I think I had 3 different shades of green that I was trying to capture. I had the green in this tree here, the green in this bush or hedge here, and then the green in the either the background over here or in the foreground over here. It didn't quite pop as it does in real life. So if you're expecting, perfect, accurate color, don't. But that's not simply a fault of this film, Tiger 200. I've had similar experiences with other film as well when I try to capture difference in colors. Fujifilm Superior Extra 400 in my 35mm camera. I was trying to capture the same kind of deal a while back, and it didn't quite pop like I was hoping. I thought I'd show something interesting here. This camera had flash, so I thought I'd take kind of identical photos, one with flash and one without, really close to these plants here. Interestingly enough, in the one with flash, you've got this reed in the foreground pretty well in focus, and then this one here further behind, this one here further behind is not quite as in focus, whereas in this photo here without the flash, the stock in the foreground is out of focus. When you get back here, and you get really good focus in the back. Both interesting photos, and I thought it was an interesting side-by-side comparison. Again, we've got this 4x5 format, and I'm just very pleased with how these turned out from both Dwayne's and from process 1. Hopefully I will become a better photographer So I guess if you're looking to use either one, I'd say if you want a faster experience and can afford to pay a little extra, Process One will be your go-to. But if you want to save a little money, Dwayne's Photo will pull through as well. I just looked it up to make sure, and yes, it was about $10 difference. I paid Dwayne's Photo $20 in total, and Process One I paid $31.97 in total. Just trying to be accurate here. And getting to look at the negatives, I figured out what was going on with that first camera. I don't know why necessarily, but look here. You can see on the film this box here where the picture is supposed to be. Look at my piano keyboard there. You can see that it extends outside of that and even over into this frame a little bit. And since this is negative and that's black or very dark right now, it showed up as being very light or white. That makes more sense. That's what it showed up as on the prints. And I would say that was probably on my part because this is how they received the film. And to their credit, they tried to cut out the whole image. For instance, let's see here. So this one's even more egregious here. This is the one of me and my cousin that my brother took. And there I am perfectly in this box. But my cousin's kind of in this void. And then the rest of the picture's over here in this frame. And to their credit, they cut out where the picture was, even though it wasn't lined up with where it was supposed to be. Also, we've got they went down to Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and photographed the eclipse, so we got some eclipse negatives here. Didn't turn out spectacularly, but, you know, wasn't expecting them to on a cheap pocket camera with 110 film. Thought this was of interest. This is our exposed frame here where I took it out of the first camera and put it into the second camera. And then this is the first photo from the second camera. And you can see that picture extends past the border. We got that white on that photo as well. But then it just kind of corrected itself, I guess. You can see toward the end of this first camera, it kind of corrected itself as well. There's not really a whole lot of bleed or overlap on these. So anyway, I don't know what causes that, but that does appear to be what was going on.